And one thing I wanted to ask about is Plev maybe doesn't have so much professional experience, maybe not so much time on stage. How do you steady yourself in these games, especially with a crowd here, and that crowd being a local home ground oh my god, I can't speak.
It's
home ground crowd for Machamp.
There you go. That was a good alliteration.
Yeah, got it there on the end. The tongue twisters, man.
It's very difficult to just kind of settle yourself, especially when you're playing for so much stakes in the HCT points and also the large prize pool. But you kind of just have to remind yourself that it's another game of Hearthstone. Just play it as efficiently as possible. Just make the most optimal plays that you can with the hand that you're given, and just kind of relax, because a lot of times pressure can get to you. And we saw Plev there a little bit. Got to him a little bit. He didn't finish his turn on that turn, and it was only one card. So sometimes, you know, your brain gets rambling, then you miss a hero power, and
you misspeak a lot, like me.
Exactly, just like JT.
All right, so game 2 underway here. Machamp has queued up the Quest Rogue. Plev bringing that odd Paladin. Now, this is a matchup that doesn't feel as bad, in my opinion, for Quest Rogue as some of the others, just because a lot of the early game that Rogue has can deal with 1 health minions, maybe better than it can against some of the Zoo decks, for example.
It looks like Plev already just straight away getting to business, putting as much pressure on as possible.
Oh, that's really interesting. So the Glacial Shard can come down now and freeze it, and then the Sonya can bounce it back next turn.
It can, but I think what Machamp's going to do is play it slow and try and use all the cards to its maximum efficiency. May not necessarily put the dagger in, because there is the Vicious Scalehide combination with the Sonya on later turns. But Plev just played very aggressively there. Just, you know, go ahead and playing out the Blessing of Might, just making sure this minion pushes as much damage as face possible. Plev hand is a little, I wouldn't say too awkward, but it definitely doesn't necessarily fit the mana curve. And pointing out is obviously fine in Odd Paladin, because you always have that hero power to rely on. So it looks like Plev just going for that very aggressive game plan.
Now, Plev must be really confused, and I am as well. Machamp daggered up there on turn 2, but didn't swing into the shield. What's that all about?
Didn't want to swing into the shield because he probably foresaw that the hero power is coming down next turn, and that he didn't actually need to hero power down that. He would rather have the dagger just in case he maybe drew into a deckhand. And also with this play right here, he freezes the 4-1. There's not really much that Plev can do in response to this besides hero power, play a 1-drop, or maybe play, I guess, some kind of 3-drop like a Void Ripper, but that's not even that great. And with that knowledge, Machamp can then just go ahead and play out the Sonya, take some trades, get those minions back, keep refreezing and potentially even replaying that Vicious Scalehide if there were no Righteous Protector.
So, yeah, it sounds like that with Machamp's line, he set up a much more powerful Sonya turn this turn, depending on what came out from Plev.
Exactly, because Machamp can actually trade off the Glacial Shard, put the dagger in, then put the Scalehide into the shield of the Argent Squire, and then replay the Scalehide, kill off the Argent Squire, and then both of the 1/1s actually are forced to go into the Sonya before anything else can happen, if he chooses to do that.
I really like that line, because you've then played 2 more Scalehides and you've got 2 in hand.
And then you're essentially one bounce away from fully completing that quest. But also going through Machamp's head right now is that wanting that dagger up at all times is very important, because if you have the dagger up, you can just keep clearing off as many minions as possible. And it is very hard for Odd Paladin to answer any of these minions right now. If this 4-1 just has to go into them, then that's kind of what Machamp set out to do. 4-1 trades, save some health, and then he still has Sonya for the next turn while maintaining a dagger.
And that's what's been amazing about this opening game so far. Plev on turn 1 was playing Argent Squire with the Blessing of Might. We're now at turn 4, and Machamp's still on 27 life.
Exactly, it's such an aggressive play, but that kind of goes to the hand texture that Machamp had in the early stages with both of those Vicious Scalehides, and then I think Plev's not going to be happy when he sees the Sonya come down to at least get one of those back. And like you said, Odd Paladin does not have many answers for board states like this. The most that Plev can do is hero power, Lost in the Jungle, play a Corridor Creeper, maybe take a trade, but even taking a trade at this point, it's a little, feels so bad.
So would Plev be putting any thought into setting up a level up turn the following this one? So Argent Squire is the high priority target for Machamp if he trades it into, say, one of the Scalehides. You then play out the Lost in the Jungle, combined with Hero Power. You're probably left with 2 or 3 the turn after that, which you can level up into. You can also play the Corridor Creeper this turn. That seems like a pretty fearsome board.
It seems like a solid play. Just go ahead and play out Corridor Creeper, Hero Power, and get the Lost in the Jungle on the board. Might as well go as wide as possible. Again, it's something that Questroig has a hard time dealing with. I think the best card that Machamp has in his list is a one-of copy of Fan of Knives to try and answer that. But currently, he does not have that. But this Vicious Scalehide is going to put in a lot of work, clearing up the majority of the board and getting the quest done.
And it's really reducing the level of that power up in the process.
Yeah, level up, it's not leveling up anything. It's more like a level down.
All right. So it looks like there's a one-off on the completion there, but with the Scalehide in hand, that'll be no problem whatsoever. Also has the preparation next turn if he would like to use it with that to get it online early. The Champion's Maul coming into hand, one of the better ones?
I would say one of the better ones. Allows him to clean up the Sonya, allowing him to also fit in another Hero Power, so he goes as wide as possible. He knows that Machamp doesn't have that many cards left in his hand. He knows one of them is Scalehide, of course, and even that's kind of awkward to play if he just plays it out and plays the quest and gets one trade. Fortunately, Machamp, he does have access to that prep in order to try and get more on the board. Even picks up an Elven Minstrel to kind of recycle later.
The other thing that you called out, which Marchamp's done perfectly, is hold on to that dagger at all times. He's always been able to clear off one of the little doodads.
One of the doodads.
One of the
dooders.
One of the dooders. One of the dooders. Without having to awkwardly weave in that Hero Power. It's always been up, always been convenient with the way he's been playing this out.
Honestly, wouldn't be surprised to see him maybe prep that out, play a boar, then re-dagger again, and keep clearing.
The only issue with that line is it kind of strands the Elven Minstrel, right?
It does.
Yeah.
But a lot of times you can rely off the top of your deck at that point, because a lot of your minions and anything you really play will be able to be comboed with the Elven Minstrel.
Especially with the Valera already in hand as well. It's just if you run into something like a Vanish, then it's really awkward.
Yeah, I think that's what Machamp is trying to save this prep for, is say the Vanish off the top, maybe even a Mimic Pod, just to kind of keep those minions, and playing as many minions as possible next turn is something Machamp is definitely going to want to do.
The other thing from holding these 2 cards on the left is Plev must be looking at them going, what are the odds that they're a Vanish? And he says, well, they're going to have to be.
Well, at this point, I've got no other choice.
Yep.
Might as well go in.
He's got quest complete. I've got to go all in. So that's the level up coming down. The Corridor Creeper getting buffed up and trading in there. Really scared of more life still by the looks of it.
I mean, I will say that there is no more lifesteal left, because both of the Vicious Scalehides have already been used, so Plev does not have to worry about that anymore. What he has to worry about is the Wax Elementals and the giant board states that Machamp is going to be able to make. But honestly, if all this pressure just keeps going face, I mean, Plev can still just get there.
So that's 11 on the board. The Vine Cleaver puts him to 4, which would set up lethal next turn. And all that has to happen is for Marchamp not to find some way to get through this.
I mean, right now, there's no way that Machamp can protect himself unless he top decks a water elemental. Yeah, that would really help.
That'd be useful.
A wax elemental.
wax elemental. So, prep Mimic Pod. I could imagine that being a play coming out now.
I think so as well. You can fully answer majority of the board. If you don't find a taunt minion, though, you're essentially dead.
You gotta get that cycle going.
I think prep Mimic Pod is the start, because then you can always novice engineer afterwards. I don't think you can afford to hold onto that prep. And maybe this goes back to those turns earlier on.
That would have been very useful.
Yes, exactly.
But he does give him more cycle, and with the prep, all right, if he can keep cycling here. It's not completely over yet. Still trying to find that Wax Elemental. Novice Engineer picks up another Mimic Pod. All right, so the prep can be combined with either the Fan of Knives or the Mimic Pod. Would expect the Mimic Pod, just because if you do hit that Wax Elemental, you want 2 of them.
Exactly. And this is your last chance to hit that Wax Elemental. Novice Engineer into a Wax Elemental. One more try. He gets it!
He gets it! The crowd goes wild here. The locals are loving the play from Marchamp. And wow, you can see the look on Plev's face. How did that happen?
Is there anything off Divine Favor that can be picked up?
No, because you can't get through the Divine Shield. You know, if you look at the Leroy.
There's an owl on the list.
Another Divine Favor will not be it. Fungal Mancer no good here either.
That's just gonna be
that's
game
just
from the champ.
Wow, what a game from our champ there. They call it Quest Rogue, but that looked much more like a miracle to me.
That was a huge miracle turn from our champ. I'm still in shock right now, JD. I couldn't believe that. Started off with a prep Mimic Pod into a Fan of Knives, into another prep Mimic Pod. There were 2 novices in there somewhere as well. That was insane.
I'm glad the cameras weren't on us because you hinked me with such excitement I almost fell off the chair.
I did. I instantly went, what is that?
What? And what an amazing turn that was, finding just the out he needed in the Wax Elemental, getting him just over the line. What precision play from